Manx Radio Sport.
A very good evening to you on Manx Radio AM 1368. I'm Rob Pritchard and welcome to Saturday Sport Classified with your usual weekly roundup of results across Manx football, rugby and hockey. Well, we will start with football and we will give you now the classified scores from today's games as we have them so far. And we are still awaiting a number of results to come through, and those that we don't have, please feel free to get in touch on 166 177 if you have any details of those. So let's take a look at the classified results across Manx football today, Saturday, the 19th of November. Starting with the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Douglas High School Old Boys 2, St George's 2. Morown 2, Peel 3. Onchan 1, Russian United 0. Corinthians 2, St John's 2. Ramsey 8, Douglas Royal 2. Ayr United 0, Union Mills 4. In the DPS Limited Division 2. Castletown 6, St Mary's 1. Braddon 5, Michael 1. Governors Athletic 2, Douglas Athletic 6. Ramsey Youth Centre 5, Douglas and District 3. In Canada Life Combination 1, St John's vs Corinthians awaiting result. Peel 3, Morown 0. Russian United vs Onchan walkover to Russian, Onchan unable to field a team due to injury. Douglas Royal vs Ramsey awaiting result. Union Mills vs Ayr United away walkover to Ayr United, Union Mills unable to field a team. And in DPS Limited Combination 2, St Mary's 2, Castletown 0. Pulrose 1, Foxdale 2. Michael 1, Braddon 3. Jims vs Maloo awaiting result. And Douglas and District 2, Ramsey Youth Centre 3. That concludes the classified footballing results here on the Isle of Man, Saturday the 19th of November, as we have them so far. Well, for the first time this evening, after what's been a busy day for him out in the cold, he's now joined us here at Broadcasting House. Tony, very good evening to you. Some great results out there today as well.
Some super results, Rob, and real battles going on right the way through the whole set of fixtures. And the weather conditions have changed a little bit now, Rob, because certainly today it was chilly out there. First time this season. I think we needed a good coat anyway. But some interesting scores. The Canada Life Premier League has changed a little bit, and we're getting a little bit closer to the Decart Railway Cup 4 top teams, but we've still got a bit more work to do.
Can I just say, the fantastic Manx public, I did a call for results we were missing. We've just had 3 of them in the last few seconds, so we will give those out before we do, in fact, move on to take a look at the games in more detail. So one of the results that we've just had in is in Canada Life Combi 1, and it finished St John's 5, Corinthians 1. And also in Combination 1, it finished Douglas Royal 1, Ramsey 3. And in Combination 2, the only result that was outstanding, it has finished Jims 0, Maloo 9. So that completes our results. Thank you very much for sending those in so promptly as well. So thank you very much for sending those through on 166 177. So Tony, we'll take a look starting with the Canada Life Men's Premier League and Douglas High School Old Boys and St George's. 2-2, honours even in this one.
Fair result, I think, by the sound of it. And Old Boys have got Danny Gellan to thank today. I watched him early on in the season, Rob, and he looks a really good player. As he's only a young lad, so it's nice to see those sort of players coming through into the Premier League. And today against the St George's side that looked on paper strong last night, but losing 3 or 4 players this morning has cost them dearly and cost them a couple more points. But a little bit of, I wouldn't say panic station setting in for St George's, but they need to start picking up some 3-pointers just to get them away from that danger zone, because depending on what sort of squad they're going to have out in future, they haven't got a combination to pick from, so they're going to have to go with the players that they've got. And if Sean Quay comes back in, it'll certainly help them. Haven't got St George's goal scorers, so if you can text me through, please, 166177. But good point for Old Boys.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to the next one now. Peel went into this weekend top of the league. They will stay there, but they've certainly been made to work for it this afternoon, because Peel 3-2 winners away at Morown. Great effort from Morown.
Yeah, and I don't know what time the last goal was scored. I think it was right, maybe in the last 5 minutes or so. But Jake Robertshaw got one for Peel. Rhys Oates on the score sheet again. Taylor Andrews getting the third one for Peel. I think he got the winner. Alex McQuarrie got one of the Morown goals, but as you rightly say, they had to work really hard for it in the second half, and Morown are a habit don't they? Have a habit of competing against these top sides, and that's what they've done today. So that'll give David Brew a massive lift. But 2-2 with only minutes to go. Peel getting the winner in, and it keeps them top of the table with 22 points.
Absolutely. Well, Onken against Russian United. This was a close one. Just the one goal in it from what we've seen here. Finished Onken 1, Russian United 0. That's
a great result for Onken when you look at Tom Creer missing. It was a different Tom Lancaster, that scored the goal. So Tom can shout about that one, but I don't think him and his family are too sort of interested in Everton at the moment with the scores that they've been having. Sorry about that, Tom. Pass that on to your dad, Steve. But, Russian... I just don't know. I don't know what the team news was today, but it was quite interesting. Yesterday, someone said to me, "Oh, can you see Russian going down?" I said, "No chance, because they played 7 games with 8 points on board." But today I expected them to pick up 3. It didn't happen for them. Didn't score, which says to me that possibly Mikey Williams and Furrow Davies didn't play. But what a big 3 points that is for Tom Lancaster and Onken, and congratulations to them, because that puts them on 9 points now, and they're doing quite well in their first year back in the top flight for many, many years. So well done to Onken.
Just had some clarity in, thanks very much, on the game between St Mary's and Castletown in Combi 2. It finished St Mary's 2, Castletown 1, as it turns out. So I think we've had a bit of a change in information in the last couple of minutes, but thank you very much for letting us know and clarifying on that one. OK, we take a look now at what was happening at Balafletcher. Tony Mepham was down there in person. Corinthians 2, St John's 2. We'd already looked at this as a possible pick of the ties this weekend, and it didn't disappoint, did it?
It didn't disappoint, and there was massive talking points in this game. Let's have a look at the first one, Rob. 9 minutes into the game, and no doubt about it, Joe Savage cut in. He was on the inside of his full-back, and he had the advantage of the ball, and just outside the penalty area, he was brought down by Chris Cannell. To me, it was last man. It's totally different how the referees read it. And it was a booking for Chris Cannell, but from the resulting free kick, it was absolute brilliant free kick from Brandon Forrester. McLeavy went to the goalkeeper's right-hand side and didn't have a lot of pace on it, but it had accuracy, and that to give St John's the lead. But then 2 minutes later, it was Danny Gerrard who equalised for Corinthians to make it 1-1, and this could have had 3 or 4 different goal scorers on it, because there was all sorts going in. I think Danny Oram had a pop at it, Josh Ridings had a go, Danny Gerrard finally put it away, and 1-1 it was. Pulsating game, played with a lot of intensity, and both teams really super fit. There was a lot of running, and Callum Taggart had 2 or 3 chances up front, and also Corinthians had chances as well. Honours even. It changed a little bit when Callum Taggart got injured with no Dean Lees today. So on came Jamie Moffat, and Jamie's a handful to deal with as well. And it was a real sort of bit of a mix-up at the back. Goalkeeper came out and went to clear the ball. I think it came off Harry Rothwell, and then the ball just had so much pace on it, trickled over the line, and Adam Killier raced back to get it, but no chance. 2-1 it was to St John's, I thought, against play. But St John's defence today were magnificent. Certainly Will Penhulrich and Sam Ingham, brilliant. And a couple of occasions, Sam was last man, and he had to make those important challenges, and he got them in there. So well done to everyone in St John's back 4, including their goalkeeper, Sticks. 2 world-class saves, absolutely brilliant. And he's a good keeper, and got to keep a look at him, because, they're looking for keepers around. Right build, whatever he is, 6'5", 6'6", Rob. And he's pretty broad as well, but he had a good performance today. But then an absolute belting goal by Chrissy Cannell, left foot from about 22 yards out, smashed it straight in to make it 2-2. And honours even, but I still thought Corinthians played better in the second half. But then, I don't know what he was thinking about. Let's talk about Darren Kane sending off first. Darren went to ground to make the tackle. When I looked at it, I thought, ooh, you've got to be careful there. And I saw the back pocket with the red card coming out, and straight red it was to Darren Kane. So he got sent off. But then pandemonium set in, because the Corinthians goalkeeper, Adam Killier, collected the ball. He'd saved it, no problem. I don't mind what he says. You're trying to say that the player was in his way, tried to get out of his way. He shoved him on the back of the neck. And when I saw it happen, I thought, that's a straight red, and this could be a penalty or a free kick on the edge of the box. The way it was a penalty for St John's. Jamie Moffat, how many penalties he's missed? Not many, I wouldn't think. And Corinthians have got no goalkeeper. So suddenly, it was Joe Middleton who, if you remember last year in the Junior Cup, when Peel and Corinthians were drawing, and then Joe had the opportunity to score from the penalty spot to stand Corinthians a good chance of winning that trophy, but unfortunately missed it, and he was beside himself because he's only a young lad. But today he put the green jersey on, stood in front of goal, and I thought, this is over. Super save, stayed in the middle, saved it. The penalty, obviously, it didn't matter because the goal didn't go in, and it was honest even. Was it a fair result? I think so. Honest assumption by Sam Brand, the manager of St John's, afterwards was that Corinthians looked the better of the two sides. Maybe going forward because they lost Callum Taggart, but defensively I thought St John's were really, really strong indeed, and Corinthians will be disappointed that they didn't create or finish some of their chances, but the Jay Chatwood missing, it might have been slightly different, but then again Dean Leese was missing. So a good game to watch. I thought it was a good spectacle for the Premier League, and are St John's in this championship race? They certainly are after today's performance.
Still a 3 or 4 horse race for that title at the moment, isn't it? It's and actually we just had a confirmation through just on the Douglas High School Old Boys and St George's game. Danny Gelling getting both goals for Douglas High School Old Boys there. So thank you very much for that one. Okay, let's move on. And went up to the north of the island. Ramsey versus Douglas Royal, and Ramsey just recapturing some of the form that maybe they showed earlier in the season with a comprehensive win today. Ramsey 8-2 winners over Douglas Royal.
Well, he did, and Ramsey have got it there when you look at the team. And today the star of the show, there's no doubt about it, it's Darren Hudson. He's been registered for Ramsey quite a few times, and just whatever happens, he goes to another club and comes back. But today he was in majestic form. He got 4. Dylan Pickles as well got 2. He got 2 last week. Matthew Montgomery got 1, and Chris Duggan back in the team as well got the other one. But it was tight up to half time, I believe. I think it was something like 2-2 maybe. But Andy Asbridge got 1 for Douglas Royal. James Clark got the other one. Royal will be disappointed. Conceded 9 last week, conceded 8 this week, so they need to try and tighten up. But certainly today, Ramsey back in form, and it does give them a bit of a lifeline. We'll look at the league tables in a minute.
Very well, and the final game in the Canada Life Men's Premier League was also in the north of the island. Ayr United versus Union Mills. Another one that you picked out could be a bit of a humdinger, I suppose it were, on paper, but a fantastic result for the away side because Union Mills, yet again, continuing their brilliant form. 4-0 winners away at Ayr United today.
Oh, tremendous performance, and I know, speaking to Jamie Callist, he said we've got a good team today, so we expect to do quite well, but no goals. I don't know if Sean Kelly played because it's not very often he plays in an Ayr United shirt and doesn't score. But no doubt about it, the star of the show today, Owen Quayle. He's just come back, as we touched on at lunchtime. He had the boot removed not too long ago, and coming back in, and he ran everywhere. He's not super match fit, but certainly sort of running around and stuff, he could do it. He got 2 goals. Tyler Hughes got 1. Congratulations again on his Player of the Month award. And it was Luke Booth again on the score sheet for Union Mills. That's a terrific result, that. And that puts Union Mills on equal second spot now, and it might even actually take them ahead, probably has, of St John's, so into second spot. So well done to them.
Very well, those are your Premier League results. Let's move on to DPS Limited Division 2, and a lot of eyes will have been on the south of the island in this division today, with third place Castletown hosting the leaders, undefeated going into the weekend, St Mary's. And there's been, I suppose, a bit, not maybe a shock in terms of how the result could have gone, but maybe in terms of the scoreline. St Mary's suffering their first defeat of the season. 6-1, Castletown beat them down in the south today. That's a big result.
It's a big result. And Danny Lane, well done, Danny. 4 goals for him today. But I did say if Castletown were going to beat St Mary's, defensively, I think St Mary's look a little bit shaky. I've noticed that over the couple of games I've watched them. Jamie Skillen got the goal for St Mary's in the first half, but as I say, Danny Lane got 4, Alex Crawley got 1, and Edson De Silva got the other one. So I'm pretty certain Gary Sansby's chuffed to bits with that one. That's a huge result, not just sort of beating them and battering them 6-1, let's be fair. And that's a little bit of an advantage to Castletown psychologically, with that super result against, as you say, the top team, St Mary's.
And I believe Castletown are one of those with a game in hand as well, up toward the top as well. So who knows where that might come into play later on.
Well, it is, and you've got Michael mixed in there as well. And when you look at the games that are there, Castletown have actually got 2 games in hand on St Mary's. So, it's all there to play for. And when you look at the start of the season that they had, I can't remember who it was now, they got beaten comfortably, and I just thought, maybe not as good as they are, but they're going to score goals, there's no doubt about it. As long as they can defend Castletown, then this could be a race on here for them to try and win this league.
Very true. And, there was another game in this division as well concerning the teams up toward the top. Braddon hosting Michael here, and this might have shaken things up a little bit as well, because Braddon, after a blistering start to the Div 2 season, had just a couple of results that didn't quite go their way, but this one is a big statement from them. They've beaten Michael at home, Braddon, by 5-1.
Yeah, good performance by Braddon, and when you look at it today, the top 4 sides in the Division 2 were all playing each other, and that's St Mary's against Castan, Michael against Braddon. Michael was second, and I was surprised with that scoreline when I came through, but fair play to Braddon, and did say that we need to go and have a look at Braddon, I think, because there's something developing here quite nicely. And it was Kieran Lane who got the goal for Michael, but for Braddon it was Matthew Ogden with one. Will Holden got a couple of goals, Dan Kinraid and Nick Hutton got the other one. So well done to Braddon, super performance by them. And Michael will be licking their wounds a little bit because they've had a great start to the season, and today beaten fair and square by Braddon 5-1.
Just on the subject of Braddon, we've spoken about it a couple of times since early in the season as well. That's a young squad as well, so if you're in charge of that group of players, you might be licking your lips at the prospect of having a longer term group there that could just keep developing and developing.
Definitely, and when you look at Dan Kinraid, Dan's 16, I think. So Matthew Ogden, Will Holden, they're new names to me, so I'm not too sure how old they are. Nick Hatton as well, because Braddon had this sort of team coming through. I think it's still a few to turn 16 that Will Smith has had, and there's some good players in there. Tom Healy's another one, but it's all keeping hold of them. University's a bit of a bummer because they end up going off to uni, but they've got to live their lives. But at the moment they're enjoying the football. Braddon are enjoying having them here, and Braddon are looking to see if they can get back in the Premier League.
It's one of those matters you cross that bridge when you come to it, I guess.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Okay, we also have Governors Athletic versus Douglas Athletic. This took place at Colby. Douglas Athletic coming out on top by 6-2.
Yeah, well done to Douglas Athletic. They've had a tough old season so far. And Martin Cowan got one of the goals. Matty Moffat got 2. Johnny Knowles and Harry Grant haven't got Governors Athletics goal scorers, but hopefully that'll breed a bit of confidence in the athletic team. And with 6 goals, just shows that they can score goals.
And finally in Division 2, another 8-goal game. Ramsey Youth Centre beating Douglas and District by 5-3.
Yeah, I think we need to find a good defensive coach, I think, Rob, looking at some of these scores that are coming in. But it was 3-2 to Ramsey Youth Centre at half-time. Jamie Brew got 3 of the goals for Ramsey Youth Centre. Corey Cassidy got 2. For D&D, it was Daniel Stewart-Clegg. Kai Stevenson scored 1 from the penalty spot. And Bobby Sido, his first goal for the club, so congratulations, Bobby. And also there's a debut game today for 16-year-old Jamie Dodd, who came off the bench and did pretty well really for 16. So welcome to senior football, and we'll watch that name and see how he progresses.
Indeed we will. Let's move on then to the Canada Life Combination 1. Now, there were 2 games already called off ahead of Saturday afternoon. One of those was Russian United against Onken, awarded as a home win to Russian, with Onken unable to field a team due to an exceptional number of injuries. So Russian getting the points there. And another walkover as well. Union Mills versus Ayr. That is an away walkover to Ayr United. They'll take the points with Union Mills unable to field a team. Well, there were 3 games that still went ahead in Canada Life Combination 1, and it finished in the first one we've got here, St John's 5, Corinthians 1.
Good result that for St John's. Played really well. Plenty of goals. Haven't got their goal scorers. Corinthians haven't got their goal scorer either. So if you could text us through, please, 166 177.
Absolutely. And Peel also scoring 3 in the combination leagues as well in the Premier League. Peel 3-0 winners at home to Moran.
Yeah, and it keeps the pressure on the top of the table, doesn't it? Because, when you look at Peel and Russian, they look as if one of those two are going to be the champions. And Peel today now played 9-1 game. They played equal games because Russian didn't play today, but get the points. Russian are on 27 points. Peel are on 22. So there's a bit to do on that one. But the main thing is keep winning those games. And that's what Peel have done today. Karen Christian with 1. Alec Akalongo got 1. And Lucas Watterson got the other one. Good result for Peel on the end, 3-0.
And the final game, which took place in Canada Life Combination 1 today, it finished Douglas Royal 1, Ramsey 3.
And that's all the information I've got, Rob.
Very well. Let's move on to DPS Limited Combination 2 then. St Mary's versus Castletown, the early kick-off today at 1:45. As we've now had clarity, that finished St Mary's 2, Castletown 1.
Yeah, got the goal scorers as well. For Castletown, it was Mike Quine who got the goal for Castletown. For St Mary's, Danny Curran with 1, and Kieran Smith got the other one. So the league leaders pick up another 3 points, and it's all for everyone to try and get a hold of them.
And another close game as well in the next one, Pulrose versus Foxdale. It was the visitors who came out on top. It finished Pulrose 1, Foxdale 2.
Yeah, and I've got JP Joyce with one of the goals after 88 minutes. Stephen Bettridge got one. Not too sure who the other one was, couldn't quite read it. But Foxdale, I think that's a good result against a good Pulrose side in Combi 2, winning 2-1.
And elsewhere, Michael versus Braddon. Well, Braddon, they enjoyed success in Division 2 and they enjoyed success today in Combination 2 as well. Braddon away at Michael. They've beaten Michael by 3-1.
They certainly did. And Charlie Knight with 1. Reese Lake got 1 from the penalty spot. And Lex Madeley got the other one for Braddon. And got Michael's goal scorer.
And then in the other result, this very one-sided contest, it seems. Jim's 0, Malou 9. I do have the goal scorers. I can give you those as well. So we had 2 hat-tricks, in fact. One going to Dean Kinley and the other going to Kieran Krippner. And then a brace for Nathan Hamilton. So 2 goals for him and also 1 for Mark Hargreaves. So a pretty one-sided competition in the end there, Tony.
Yeah, it was. And, Dean Kinley scoring goals for fun, isn't it? And, when you look at it, Kieran Krippner, good player. The 2 really good players there, and Nathan Hamilton. I can't recall Nathan ever scoring 2 goals in a game, so maybe I'm doing him an injustice. But between the 3 of them, they got 8 of the goals, and then Mark Hargreaves got the last one. Comfortable there for Malou 9-0.
Just had a text in to say Alex goal for Peel Combination was an absolute corker, best this person has seen all season so far. By the sounds of it, we've got quite a few contenders in Manx football at the moment, haven't we?
Some belters.
Okay, the final results of today then in the men's senior leagues in the DPS Limited Combination 2. It was a close one. Douglas and District 2, Ramsey Youth Centre 3.
And it was Mark Quirk with a couple of goals there for D&D, and well done to Casey Harvey, his first appearance in goal for Douglas and District. So Douglas and District capitalising a little bit on their youth policy, which is important to bring those players through. But it's Leighton Ballard with 2 goals for Ramsey Youth Centre, and John Stone got the other one. But it wasn't enough D&D with those 2 goals from Mark, because Ramsey Youth Centre won at 3-2.
Just had one from the combination as well. Bryden Lee was the scorer for Foxdale there, just as a bit of clarity. Thanks for that message in. Okay, so those are your results from the Manx Footballing Leagues for Saturday the 19th of November. Moving now to the NWCFL Premier Division, and FC Isle of Man, who have suffered their 3rd defeat on the bounce in all competitions today after a 3-0 defeat away to Winsford United this afternoon. A Nathan Cottrell hat-trick for the Cheshire side doing the damage, and a tough result for the Ravens at the Barton Stadium. So I spoke to FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones after the final whistle to get his thoughts on his team's performance today.
Very good for large parts of the game, on a very difficult pitch, and then maybe frustrating for very small parts of the game where we've kind of made a few decisions or not made a few decisions, and they've capitalised on it, and so that's kind of it in a nutshell, really. Frustrated, but also very, very pleased in terms of how they've applied themselves and how we've gone about what we're trying to do. It wasn't a fair reflection of the performance, but you don't always get what you deserve in a game of football, and ultimately we've come away not winning the game.
A pretty even contest come half-time. You were 1-0 down, but then it was 2 quick-fire goals right at the start of the second half. At that point, at 3-0 down, did it just feel like maybe just a bit too much of a challenge to overcome, even with so much time remaining?
Yes and no. I mean, in other games earlier this season, we've kind of maybe gone on to concede a few more goals, and the really positive thing was that everyone dug in. We made 3 substitutions, and to give young players some minutes, and returning players some minutes, and they were excellent. Even though they were 3-0 down, we took the game to Winsford. We created lots of chances in the second half, and we could have scored 3 or 4 ourselves really on a different day. So it was a really positive reaction to a very disappointing first 10 minutes of the second half, but it was only disappointing because we were 2-0 down, not because of how we were playing in that period. So it's one of those where you walk away looking at the scoreline going, like that's not good enough. Like we need to be in games for longer periods and ultimately getting points. But you also walk away with another hat on, going, it was a really positive performance and it was a really positive step in the right direction for the group of players. So yeah, it depends on what mood you catch me in over the next few days as to whether it'll be a positive or a negative spin.
Back in action again, of course, next Saturday, back at home. What are you looking to hopefully work on over the next week on the back of today to maybe try and turn things around for the next one?
Yeah, we had a good conversation in the dressing room after the game, and we've identified as a group some key areas, and it's not too far away from what we've been working on this week around a little bit of organisational structure and looking at the players playing more as a team and not 11 individuals. So we'll keep working on that, and we'll keep giving them some information that they can digest and play with a little bit. And, we keep moving forward in a positive direction. They're a great group. They work their socks off. They do, most things that you ask them to. And the more that they kind of work on the little bits that we've identified over the last couple of weeks, then the stronger they will be as individuals in a group come the end of the season. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of work there. You're never a finished article, are you, as a player or a team? So there's lots that we can work on, and they're looking forward to getting back in on Tuesday. And hopefully for the 1 o'clock kickoff, we can get as many people down the ground as possible at the bowl and, give them the support that they deserve for the efforts they've put in on behalf of the island over the last kind of 6 months or so.
That's Paul Jones, FC Isle of Man manager, talking after his side's 3-0 defeat away to Winsford United in the NWCFL Premier Division today. Just before we talk FC Isle of Man, we've just had a confirmation, thanks for the message in. Braddon's first team goal scorer was Callum Holden, not Will Holden, so we'll just add that in. But thank you very much for the clarity. And just to add to the message we got about Alec Ekalango's strike today, I have been reliably informed that it will be viewable on Peel's Facebook page shortly, in case anyone would like to see just how great a strike was. That's a message that's come through. Is he trying to take on Luke Murray, do you think, on that one?
Be some goal to beat Luke Murray's, I think. Unbelievable.
There's a high calibre going on, isn't there? So, we'll have to wait and see for that one. OK, let's take a look. FC Isle of Man, 3-0 defeat today. What was an even first half? They were 1 goal down at half-time. 2 goals in the space of 4 minutes at the start of the second half. Paul Jones says there were positives to take from that game. He did enjoy the work ethic and he enjoyed the desire from his team. But that still might sting a bit, mightn't it?
Well, it will do, because it was a league game. Last week was a cup. I'm not saying this is important, but I think now Paul and the team need to sort of really concentrate on, I know they're trying the hardest to get some points, because this relegation lark is starting to look a little bit of a possibility, which we don't want to happen. So they've got to try and get things together. A lot of young lads being given the opportunity to play here and playing against more experienced players, possibly more physical players, because some of the players that they've brought in are light, as in weight and stuff, because they're only like sort of 16, 18 years of age. But, it is what it is. And listening to Paul's interview there, they had chances, but couldn't score. Today, I think it was Tom Creer and Luke Murray that started up front. The team defensively looked good. So, conceding those 3 goals, that's a little bit of a worry when you look at the players that we had there in the back four. So, yeah, something that Paul and the team will work on. And hopefully they'll get it right, because they've got a home game 1:30, is it, next Saturday?
1 p.m.
Yeah, 1 p.m. So, it's going to be difficult, because, there's a full league programme going on in Manx football, but we wish them well, and they could do with getting some points on the board just to give them a bit of confidence for the next game.
Just to go across 2 of those points you've mentioned there to talk about the physicality of it as well. It's a youthful squad that went out there today, and Paul Jones very happy with the work rate they put in, but on a slower pitch as well, which he did touch on as well. It maybe plays into a more physical side. We can't be too harsh on these young lads, because that's not something that just happens overnight, that you're all of a sudden up to physicality in this division. It takes time to work it out, doesn't it? Yeah,
definitely. It's all about learning, and certainly last year in the Division 1 South, it was a wake-up call for them, the physicality, and right through it. Chris Bass said that, and obviously now going up a league to the Premier League, it's going to be even more. I've noticed that the players are faster. They're certainly stronger. There's no doubt about that. The accuracy and everything's there, which you would expect in a higher league, but it doesn't sort of take anything away from that. FC Isle of Man need to get some points on the board, and they played against a team today that's alongside them in the league. 3-0's, a big defeat. So they need to sort of have a little look, see where they can tighten things up. Players are coming back from injury now. Chrissy Cannell played today for Corinthians and he scored a goal. You've got Dan Simpson who came back in. From what I was hearing from the reports in from Paul Moran was that Dan was doing quite well for first came back in for a while. I think Sean Dawes probably a little bit away at the moment, but the players there sort of good enough, older players. Why they weren't selected, don't know if they were fit, but the younger ones have come in and, as you say, they've just got to learn the trade.
And just to go on that point you made of obviously where FC Isle of Man are in the table, actually going into this weekend, we haven't seen the other results around them in the league as of yet, apart from this one. They've had a nice points cushion from those bottom two places for a little bit of time. They've picked up some good results, so we've said, haven't we, that it's not panic stations yet. There's still a long way in the season to go and a lot of points up for grabs, but how important is it that they just remain calm just to avoid getting drawn into that over the long run?
Well, it's always the change, isn't it? Some of those players will have played under Paul when he managed the Ireland team, so they know how he wants to play football. They're used to sort of Lee Dixon and Chris Bass's system. Now that they've got a new team in, they'll be getting their points over how they want. And new players playing with players that they've probably never played with before. And suddenly players like Alex Maitland, Carl Clark and that, more senior players, the younger ones will be looking at them for, a bit of guidance, a little bit of help. But it's all about progress. They knew it was going to be a change from the new management taking over. And it's getting used to whatever's going to go on there. But, yeah, they can't afford, they need some more points just to give them a lift. Otherwise, you're always looking behind you, aren't you? Worried where your next set of points are going to come from. And at the moment, Paul's struggled a little bit with getting some points on the board with the two games he's been in charge. One, I know, being a cup, but the league game.
Well, plenty of food for thought over the next week before
Absolutely.
that game against Charnock Richard, and plenty of time in the season to look to turn things around. Well, Tony, thank you very much as ever, and we'll be catching up with you very soon.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, it's around this time we take a look at the rugby results today. Unfortunately, we don't have Dave Christian alongside us today. He is across the water watching the Rugby World Cup final. We're all rather jealous of him, but we do have some results to bring you from today. It was an actual domestic break for the English Clubs Championships and the Ravenscroft Manx Shield amid the autumn internationals, but we did have two games involving Manx sides today, and late drama in both, in fact. One of those on Ireland in the women's NC1 Northwest. Vagabonds ladies, they went down 17-20 to Chester Divas. It was a last-minute penalty that decided the game in a very close contest. The tries for Vagabonds coming from Corinna Daly, Jules Harrison and Hannah Claydon, and a conversion as well from Sammy McDonald in what sounded like a very entertaining game at Ballafletcher at lunchtime. Elsewhere, a different change in fortunes for the other Manx side in action today. Ramsey away in the Cheshire Bowl, a big win for them in that one. They were away at Ellesmere Port. Ramsey 28-26 winners. A Brandon Atchison conversion winning the game in the last kick of the game, I'm told. Fantastic result for Ramsey out there. The tries for Ramsey coming from Jake Richmond, Josh Courtine, Nathan Robson and Brandon Atchison, with Brandon Atchison getting 4 conversions, including that all-important game deciding one. So great result for Ramsey. Commiserations to Vagabonds, but they still have had a fantastic start to the season, and sure, it won't put them out too much on that one until they go into the next game. Okay, now it's time to take a look at hockey, and we're entering the final few critical weeks of the mixed hockey season. Points more valuable than ever across the divisions, and he's, as ever, taking a look through the results with us. Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening to you.
Good evening, how are we?
Very well, thanks. Very well. So before we take a look in detail, let's bring you the classified hockey results from Saturday, the 19th of November, and they are as follows. In the Rossborough Mixed Premier League, Backers B 4, Vikings B 3, Ramsey A 5, Valkyries B 0, Backers A 6, Valkyries A 0. In the Rossborough Mixed Division 1, Castletown Southerners 4, Vikings D 0. Vikings C 0, Valkyries C 3. Harlequins A 10, Backers C 0. In the Rossborough Mixed Division 2, Valkyries D 3, Ramsey Rookies 1. Castletown Cushags 4, Vikings E 1. Ramsey Ravens 0, Castletown Camags 1. In the Rossborough Mixed Division 3, Harlequins B 8, Harlequins C 2. Backers Colts 4, Castletown Cosney 0. Backers D 0, Valkyes Colts 1. And in the Rossborough Mixed Under-15s League, Ramsey Rogues and Rascals 4, Harlequins 5. Castletown Sharks 0, Backers 6. And that concludes your classified mixed hockey results for Saturday the 19th of November. Well, let's bring Ben back into this. Let's take a look at the Rossborough Mixed Premier League. Starting with the early pushback, this was quite a crucial game between the B teams here and Backers B and Vikings B. And as was the case in the last time these two teams met, Backers B coming out on top. Not as one-sided this time, but ultimately still a win for them. Backers B 4, Vikings B 3.
Yeah, a real crucial win for Backers B there. Sam Franklin with 2, Chris Bass with 1, and from the message I've got, it's Cal with 1, so if we could have a full name, that'd be brilliant, Tar. But for Vikings, it was Dom Hubble with 2 and Morven Smith with 1.
And the fact from Vikings' perspective there, defeat for them, that might hurt a little bit, but it's a far cry from the result they had last time, making up ground, and they've had some good results recently. And Backers B, a very consistent season. It's always difficult for B teams coming into the Mixed Premier League or Men's and Women's Premier League, but to have consistent performances, I should say, as a B team going into top flight, that's got to be commended from Backers' perspective.
And when you're in the Premier League, it's going to be a tough ask, no matter what team you're against. But yeah, credit to both Backers B and Vikings B, because they've really shown themselves this season.
And then there was a crucial game in the north of the island in one of the 2 pushbacks between Ramsey A and Valkyes B. And Valkyes B would see them relegated from the division today had they lost, and unfortunately for them that has proved to be the case. It finished Ramsey A 5, Valkyes B 0. Yeah,
I had a feeling that Ramsey would comfortably get this one today, and that's no mean feat to Valkyes B. Ramsey A's goal scorers were Alex Neal with 2, Sophie Crossgrave with 1, Joe Quine with 1, and Jake Moore with 1. But yet again, Valkyes B, credit to them. They've been in a really tough league this year, and they have proven themselves. But yeah, unfortunately, it's relegation for them, unfortunately.
And that's the other side of what we were just talking about a moment ago, is the fact that, to be a B team going into top flight is tough, and they've certainly given a good go of it, but it's just a little too much this time around, but got to be commended for their efforts.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and full respect to them for the effort they've put in, and who knows, they'll be down into Division 1 next year, but who says they can't come back up next year? Wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. Well, the other game that pushed back at 2:05 between Backers A and Valkyes A. Backers A were looking to kick on a little bit after being held to a goalless draw by Castletown Celts in the previous league game, and they responded in style, as Ben, I think you actually predicted. Comprehensive win for Backers A versus Valkyes A. Backers winning by 6-0.
Yeah, I thought they'd have their mojo back this week, and it quite clearly they have. Andy Whiten with 4, Jamie Brown with 1, and Luca Parto with 1. But I mean, clearly last week was maybe an off week for them, and this week they've come back and really, said that, we're not giving this up yet. We're top of the league and we're going to stay there. But the gap is still 1 point at the top of the league. At the moment, it's 3, but Vikings will play Castletown midweek. If Vikings win that, then the last game of the season, Backers A meet Vikings A, and it will all come down to that game. So next weekend, that game is going to definitely be one of the games to look out for.
That could be unmissable. But let's not forget, with that Vikings A Castletown Celts game that's been rescheduled, Castletown have certainly proven their worth in this division this season against the likes of Backers and Vikings, who you often see occupying those top spots in the league, and they're no pushovers whatsoever, Castletown.
Well, when they met in the league last time, Vikings only just come out winners. I think it was 3-2. I might be wrong. And then they met in the cup, and that was again just 1 goal between them. So I'm not placing a bet on it, but that midweek game could be very crucial.
Could very well be indeed. Well, that's the Rossborough Mixed Premier League results for Saturday. Let's move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 1. There were two games that pushed back at 12:35 and one was one of the later ones at 3:35pm. We'll start with the two that started earlier, and over at King William's College, Castletown Southerners were up against Vikings D, and it was Southerners who came out on top with a good win there. Southerners beating Vikings D by 4-0.
Yeah, I had Vikings D actually down to maybe just get this one, but credit to Castletown yet again. Another Castletown team has proven me wrong. Corbin Stewart with one, Dan Roberts with one, Archie Cox with one, and Christian Stereopoulos with one. But a good win for Castletown Southerners, bouncing back after a heavy defeat last week.
You're learning that this season, and your predecessor, Sam Spooner, said the same thing last season. Never write off a Castletown team.
Yep, I'm learning very well.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the other game that started at 12:35. Vikings C against Valkyries C at QE2. Valkyries C coming out on top here. Valkyries winning by 3-0.
Yeah, and Valkyries C really needed to get this win today, and they have. Chris Thomas, with 2, and Russ Miller with 1 for Valkyries C.
And then in the late pushback at the NSC in Douglas was between Harlequins A and Backers C. And this is quite the statement from Harlequins today. Harlequins A winning against Backers C by 10-0.
Yeah, and I went down to watch the first half of this game. And as a Harlequins player, I was stood there watching our A team and going, wow. Because that is the best I have seen our A team play all season. It was absolutely faultless, and just as soon as they got in the D, it was no fancy work trying to show off getting a top corner finish. It was just bang into the D shot, and that it's proven worthwhile what they've done. Ronan Santantonio with 5. I apologise, I've probably said your name wrong again. Corey Corker with 2, Paul Nuttall with 1, Alfie Swales with 1, and then Tony mentioned him just before there. He saved a penalty in the football, and then he came straight down to the A-team game and scored. Joe Middleton with 1.
Excellent stuff. What a day for him. So in terms of Mixed Division 1, where does that leave tables-wise at the moment?
It's going to come down to games next weekend. Harlequins, I think, it's top by a point. I could be wrong, but yeah, it all comes down to the games next weekend. This league's going to go right down to the final game, which is next week.
Fantastic stuff. Let's move on then to Rossborough Mixed Division 2. There were 3 games there as well. We had one very early pushback at 11:05 and then 2 at 12:35. Let's start with that one that started at 11:05. Valkyries D taking on Ramsey Rookies at QE2, and Valkyries D coming out on top. They won this one by 3-1.
Yeah, I thought they would have the stronger team to overcome Ramsey Rookies. Mark Perryman with 2, Bill Cowell with 1. And then for Ramsey Rookies, it was Dan Stevens. But great win for Valkyries D, and they really, really needed it to avoid the relegation in this league.
And then down in the south at Castle Rushen High School, Castletown Cushags taking on Vikings E at 12:35 today. Another big result for a Castletown team this weekend. Castletown Cushags beating Vikings E by 4-1.
And again, I've said it. I've said Vikings E would win, and Castletown have overcome me again. Castletown bottom of the league, and that's a huge result for them. It really does make that relegation battle in this league now really tasty, and it's going to come down again to next weekend's games. For Castletown, it was Hannah Ashton Foster with 1, Sienna Stevens with 1, Fern Bagazzi with 1, and Eden McCubbin with 1 for Castletown. And then for Vikings E, it was Jacob Harding.
And then we move on to the other 12:35 pushback. This was the crucial one between the top 2, and it didn't disappoint in how close you expected it to be. Ramsey Ravens up against Castletown Camags at Ramsey Grammar School. And it's another victory for Castletown this weekend, but only just. Ramsey Ravens 0, Castletown Camags 1.
And congratulations to Castletown Camags, because they are Division 2 champions. Absolutely flawless this season. Unbeaten, and they're still unbeaten. Only the 1 goal today, but in their last few games they've been scoring goals for fun. And the man of the moment who got that goal is Will Collister. But congratulations to Castletown Camags Division 2 champions.
Like you say, they've been scoring goals for fun, but in games like that with Ramsey Ravens breathing down your neck in second as well, sometimes you do have to grind out a result like that. That shows a different side to them as well, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure Ramsey Ravens really put out as much of a strong team as they could. And clearly, it has just come down to just one split second, and it's come down to just that. And it's Castletown Camags with the win.
Well, there we go. Castletown Camags, Rossborough Mixed Division 2 champions. Congratulations. Let's move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 3. 3 games there. We'll start with the early pushback. 11:05. It was a Harlequins derby between Harlequins B and Harlequins C at the NSC. And it was the B team that overcame their C team. Harlequins B beating their C team by 8-2. And yet again, there's a familiar face on this score sheet, isn't there?
But I will say the C team took the lead. And yeah, a few B team players were looking at each other going, hang on a minute, something's not right. For Harlequins C, it was Sam Clegg and Nathan Evans. And then for Harlequins B, it was Amelia Lee with 3, Sam Cunningham with 1, David Smith with 1, Jess Corlett with 1, and Ben Cunningham with 2. I promise I'm not being greedy. But honestly, for a derby, you really wouldn't have thought it was a league game. It was just played in such really good spirit. Everyone was, clapping each other, patting each other on the back, having a joke with each other. And both umpires as well just got into the spirit of it. And it was a really, really pleasant game.
Always good to see. Well, let's move on to the 2 pushback in Rossborough Mixed Division 3 between Bacchus Colts and Castletown Cosney. Bacchus Colts continuing their very good form this season in the division. They've beaten Castletown Cosney at Castle Rushen by 4-0.
And Bacchus Colts are now Division 3 champions, because no matter what the result is next week, if Harlequins be to win next week against Bacchus Colts will still be 1 point ahead. So Bacchus Colts today have wrapped up Division 3. Doug Quayle with 1, Dave Partons with 2, and Peter Vernon Brown with a goal as well.
Congratulations as well then to Bacchus Colts, Rossborough Mixed Division 3 champions going into the final week next week. And the final game in Rossborough Mixed Division 3 was between Bacchus D and Valkyries Colts. We looked at this result and this raised an eyebrow or two in the studio, didn't it? Bacchus D 0, Valkyries Colts 1.
And the message I've got is Valkyries Colts played the whole game with 10 players. And to overcome Bacchus D, who have got so many older players, but they have got so much experience from past age. I won't mention some of their ages. But yeah, absolutely fantastic result for Valkyries Colts. And, it really sums up their season. They've only some weeks been getting 10 players. I mean, 1 week they had to concede a game because they had to, lend players to their D team. But absolutely full credit to Valkyries Colts. And it was Alex Devereaux who got the solo goal for Valkyries Colts.
And that might just be a silver lining. Like you say, it's been tough for them this season. Sometimes they've only had 10 players that have been available for them for whichever reason, but they've still turned out where they can and always put in 100%, and that's reward for their efforts in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I when I played them in when I was playing for Harlequins B and we played against them, they only had 10 there, but they never dropped their heads, and that is what's kept them going this season. No matter what the result is, they've just kept going.
Excellent. Well, we've got around 2 minutes here, so we'll just quickly wrap up. Last but certainly not least, there are 2 games in Rossborough Mixed Under-15s League this weekend.
Yep, so Ramsey Rogues and Rascals and Harlequins. It was a 5-4 win for Harlequins. Ramsey Rogues and Rascals goal scorers were Winnie Davis with 2, Alfie Mellon with 1, and Amelia Colster with 1. And for Harlequins, it was Caleb Blakemore with 2, Killiam Dowling with 2, and Molly Swales with 1. And then the other game, Castletown Sharks against Bacchus, that was a 6-0 win for Bacchus. Abby Maddox with 2, Zara Leave with 2, Amelia Geldard, I think it is. Sorry, I can't even read my own writing, with 1, and Ollie Christian with 1.
Well, Ben, thank you very much. As ever, we'll be catching up with you next week when it looks like it's going to be a roller coaster finish to the mixed hockey season. Well, Ben, thank you very much indeed. That is your hockey for this weekend. And rounding things off, tonight we're going to take a look at athletics. One of the most popular athletic events of the year on the island gets underway tomorrow morning in the south. The Sidquirk Half Marathon gets underway on the Ronaldsway Industrial Estate at 8 a.m. sharp. Around 400 competitors are due to be involved across both the half marathon run and half marathon walk events. Its organisers, the Alaman Veteran Athletes Club, have actually had to put limits on entries in the last few years due to how high demand is to take part. Ahead of things getting underway tomorrow morning, I caught up with Dave Griffiths to find out who he thinks might be the competitors in with a shout of victory and his thoughts on why the occasion is proving so popular.
The entry is absolutely fantastic this year, as it has been for each of the last 3 years, in fact. I think really it goes back to the 2020 events, which of course was the main COVID lockdown year, where it was impossible to travel off the island and there were no events off the island anyway. So all the local athletes basically had no choice but to compete locally. So all running events were incredibly popular that year. The Sidquirk so much so that they actually had to impose a 400 limit that year, which they have kept since then. But whereas certain other races maybe have dropped off a little bit in popularity, the Sidquirk has hit the 400 limit with weeks to spare once again this year, so it's a fantastic entry.
Just on that point there, you mentioned obviously the organisers had to take their decision to restrict entries, and it's been popular year after year. What makes it such a popular event?
I think it's a combination of the course. I think it's while there are some hills in it, it's a pretty fast course. I think the runners who compete in the half marathon and the marathon, in fact, on the Ramsey course in August, the Sidquirk course down in the south of the island is a lot faster. So generally, you'll get athletes who run in both events. They'll typically go quite a bit faster in the Sidquirk, and I think it's just the history of the event as well. And it's quite a rare opportunity to run a half marathon on the island. I think it's only the two in the year. So yeah, it's just a tremendously popular event.
For those who don't know the ins and outs of how the whole Sidquirk Half Marathon event goes, could you just explain what events take place? Yes,
we've got running and walking races. The vast majority of the entrants are in the run. I think it's about 350 to 50 or something like that. The actual format is that at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, the walking race gets underway. And then at 8:15, the running race has actually been brought forward this year because of a potential problem with the train going across the junction in Ballasalla, which is something we've had in the past, but not in recent years. So the slower runners start at 8:15 a.m. and then the faster runners start at 8:30 a.m. So we will have 3 races going on at the same time, but obviously off different starts. So that's basically the format. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of the course, it starts and finishes on the Ronaldsway Industrial Estate. So there's about a mile at the start and a mile at the finish, which is basically just a loop around the estate. And then the main course is completed twice, and that emerges onto the road at the airport, goes through Ballasalla, past Rushen Abbey, across Four Ways into Ballabeg, turns left on the Southern Hundred course in reverse, and then turns left again onto the Castletown bypass, past the pubs, the Viking, and then past King William's College and back to Ronaldsway. So 2 laps of that is completed, and then there's a lap around the industrial estate at the end, so that makes up the distance.
In both the men's and women's sections, the winners last time around in each of those aren't actually here this time around. So what are the fields like this year?
So I think in the men's race, I initially thought it was going to be a really close race between Oren Smith and Christian Varley, but I believe Christian's also doing pacemaking as well. So I think that probably makes Oren, who's a tremendous endurance athlete, and he's had a lot of success over the years, and I think he is now the clear favourite to win, and he has won the event before. But there are quite a number of others who I think will be looking to set personal best times, probably by some distance, I would think, looking at the entry we have. I think Sean McEntee is an athlete who's really improved in the last couple of years. He had a cracking a marathon in Berlin not so long ago. We've got Sam Jones, who was runner-up last year. Mark Berman, who's a really strong endurance athlete. He's been doing well at cross-country and on the fells this season. And then you've got others like Jamie Newton, who's got loads of experience, as has Paul Sykes.
And the women's field as well, because winner last time around, Alyssa Wood, isn't available this time. How strong is this field?
I think the women's field, to be fair, I think is probably even stronger than the men's when you look at the strength and depth. depth. It's an absolutely tremendous field. Like you say, the two previous winners in the last couple of years, Sarah Webster's on pacemaking duty. Alyssa Wood, unfortunately, is injured at the moment, so there will be a new winner this year. And I'm delighted to see her in the entry, and that's Gemma Aston, who was an absolutely brilliant teenage athlete who achieved a heck of a lot. Won a medal at the Island Games, finished high up in English schools competition, and so on. And after a gap of about 10 years, she recently made a racing comeback on the roads in the Great South Run in Portsmouth. Now, I know Gemma, sort of slightly longer term, is looking to move up to the marathon, so running her first half marathon will be a stepping stone towards that. She's got to go into the race with basically no pressure, just enjoy it, give it her best shots, and I think she will go well. We've got last year's runner-up, Becky Pate, just a really competitive athlete. I know, she's trying to, she's improving all the time, and she's very dedicated. Megan Thomas, who's a really good marathon runner, she's run a couple of marathons recently, so I think a lot of that will depend on how well she's recovered from that. There's Hannah Moore, who has just had an amazing year in 2022. She's winning cross country, she's winning fell races, she won the end-to-end walk. This is the first time she'll run a half marathon, so it'll be interesting to see how she goes. We've got an athlete who recently made some headlines actually by winning the Sierra Nevada Marathon in Spain, which is known as the world's fastest marathon because it's all downhill. She is making her half marathon debut, obviously on a regular course, so it'll be quite interesting to see how she goes on that. And then we've got athletes who are maybe looking towards maybe sub 90 or low 90 minute times. Dawn Atherton, we've got the likes of Amber Carriage, we've got Emma McMullen, Helen Taylor, Joanne Sharder, and we've also got Commonwealth Games race walker Erica Kelly.
If there are people who want to maybe get out and about and just support people at any point round the course, what time should they be out there? What time's things getting underway, and what time do we roughly expect the events to finish?
The run winner will probably finish at round about, I think, maybe 9:40ish, something like that. Obviously, the women's race will be a little bit after that. You do need to be a little bit careful because obviously the roads will be busy with something like 400 competitors on the roads. But certainly any spectators who want to come to the finish in the Runnelsby Industrial Estate, get there reasonably early, give the runners a cheer as they come in.
Dave Griffiths with that report there on the Sigquirk Half Marathon getting underway at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. That's all we have time for on Saturday Sport Classified on Manx Radio AM 1368. Thank you very much for joining us for your latest roundup of rugby, hockey and football results on the Isle of Man. We will now be handing back over to Radio Caroline, so thank you very much for joining us and enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your weekend. Until next time, bye for now.